welcome to part 3 of cycling satnav with turn-by-turn directions. In this part I'm going to look quickly at how I plan my maps. I'm using a website called ridewithgps.com. You'll need to register, username, password. The basics are free. You can pay for added bonuses if you want, but the basics are free. And I'm in the section at the moment at the top here that says plan. So I'm going to plan a ride. I'll run through some of the basics for those of you that have never used any kind of mapping software, and we'll see how we get on. Up at the top here I am set to map. You have overview and options. If you click on options you can decide whether you want imperial or metric measurements, and you can tick or untick any of these that you wish. Just set it up however you wish. I'll go back to overview. Your options whilst mapping, the layout's a little odd. I'm on follow roads at the moment. Your 5 options are follow roads, draw lines, add point of interest, add to cue sheet, and add or remove control point. Those are basically your 5 options. It defaults to follow roads, which is what I'm going to start with, so I'll go back to follow roads, and you also have the options walking, cycling, or driving. I'm going to leave that on driving. I'll talk about the others shortly. So in that position, like all mapping software really, you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out the map to look at more detail, and you can click and drag to move the map around to get to where you want to go. So for me to do a basic route, I'm going to click into where I just want to start, and I'm just going to find the road and click on the road where I want to start, and it puts in the first control point, this green arrow. I'm going to zoom out a bit, drag the map across a bit, zoom back in a bit, and I'm just going to click where I want to finish my route. Very simple, just a start and an end point. So let's say I want to go to the museum in the park here. I'm just going to click. Now if I look at the map, it is produced for me a red line, which is my route. At the bottom here it tells me it's 8.3 miles. I climb 325 feet and I descend 168, and we have a route profile down the bottom if you're interested in knowing how many hills you're encountering on your way. And over on the left here there is a list of navigation, which I'm going to talk about in videos that are still to come. And what the computer has done is made the quickest point really. I've got point 1 the start, point 2 the end, and it has found the quickest way of getting between the two. Now the whole point of my intentions is I don't want to do that. I want to specify my own little routes through every little village and back route and everything I can, because if we look here, once we get to this roundabout at this point, this is the A419 all the way into Stroud. It's not a great road to cycle. It's sort of fairly fast, but there's loads of cars. It's not very nice. If you're with friends, you can't really cycle beside each other. It's just far too busy. I don't want to use the A419 if I don't need to. So what you can do on these maps is by putting my mouse over the red line anyway, which is my route, a blue spot appears and a hand. I can click and drag, and if we look, I can see here there are some villages here called Easington, Froster, Leonard Stanley, King Stanley. I would rather take a bit of a route through all these villages to get to my end point. So I'm just going to click on this red line anyway, click and keep my finger down, and drag out to a road I'd like to go on. And you'll now see there's a white circle. There are now 3 control points: the start, the middle, and the end. And it has to work out a route that goes through every control point. So now, rather than the A419, it's directing me to here, into Froster, and then between that control point and the end control point, it decides, the computer decides, the best route actually is to whiz straight back down to the 419 for this last bit. Let's assume I don't want that either. I can see villages here called Leonard Stanley, King Stanley, Selsley. I'd rather go through all of those. So again, I'm just going to go over the line, click, and drag out and let go on a road. So now I've got a route that's going through all these little villages and into Stroud. It's a bit further, it's 9.7 miles. There's a little more climbing, but I don't mind. I'm out for a nice ride on a sunny day. That's fine by me. I'd rather do that than go down the main road. If you're interested in the elevation, you can see I've encountered more hills on this one as well. If you put your mouse anywhere on the elevation profile, you can see at that point there, I'm 6.55 miles into the ride. I'm at an altitude of 235 feet, and the gradient is 7.2%. So as I move my mouse along there, you see it's 5.1, 5.67, 2, 3, it flattens out a bit there, 7, 8, roughly the steepest I saw was a little bit of 8% somewhere. So I know I've got a hill there. in case you don't want steep hills, or you do want steep hills, you can get a guide as to what these roads are doing, and you'll see the little blue blob is moving along the line. So this hill sort of starts about here by King Stanley. You can see the blue blob sort of here as I'm doing it, and as I'm moving, you can see, so there's a hill there, you can see the little blue blob moving along. There's a hill there which crests out just a bit before Selsley and then whiz back down. So there's lots of information there, and you can zoom in and you can just keep dragging that line around to your heart's content to try and find a route. I've made a mess of it there. I just dragged something that was stupid. Down the bottom here you have an undo and a redo button, so I did something stupid, so I'm just going to undo. Undo again because I did it twice, and we're back to where we were. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a couple of other quick things. So I do have a save button up here. You see where my mouse is? So I could save that route if I wanted it and give it a name. I'm just going to clear the map for the moment, so I just want to look at one or two other quick things. So I'm going to click Clear Map and OK, and that all disappears. For those of you not used to these, I'm just going to zoom in, let me just find it and have a look here. If we just zoom in at this section here, let's assume I want to go from here to here as part of my route. You'll see the route it's taken me is all the way up to the roundabout, down this lane called Pagan Hill, and back along the A419. That I would rather not do. I can see here, if you see in the centre of the screen, there's a railway line here. It looks, there's a grey section there. It looks as though there is some kind of path, but possibly not a road. I happen to know that that's a footbridge, and I could easily get across there on my bicycle. It wouldn't be a problem at all. So over on the right here, I have optimised map for walking, cycling, driving. I tend to use driving for setting out my map, but sometimes it's useful to go to the others. So let me just undo that and we'll have a look. If I now set this to cycling and do the same route, I'm going to start here and go to here. It will now use that little grey section, which is a footpath, and it'll take me on the other route. So using the walking, cycling or driving can be really, really useful. Otherwise it forces you to go on routes you don't want to necessarily go. Another thing you can do, I'm just going to undo and clear the map again, which I'll just show you quickly. Let's just pretend for the moment that on this road here, I'm up here and I want to come to over here. Even set to cycling is taking me this route around here. Let's just pretend for the moment that I know, scenario I know, and I know full well that I can get across this gap here. There is a path, but it's just not showing it on the map. So another thing you can do, I'm just going to undo. I'm going to click my start point. I'm going to click my end point where the road seems to finish. And now I just want to go straight across it because I know I can. So instead of follow roads, I'm going to go to draw lines. Draw lines will just basically make a straight line between the last point and the new point I click. It doesn't care about the roads. So I'm now just going to click here and it's produced me a straight line across, so I've got to what I want. I'm now going to carry on, and if I carried on it would just be drawing straight lines. I want to go back to follow roads. So I'm going to click back on follow roads and then I can just click wherever I want to go. Because I'm still on cycling, you can see it's taken this grey route through here. We can talk in videos to come whether we can check whether that is a cyclable route for my kind of bike or not. If I didn't want to do that, I could undo. I could go, I'm going to have to go back to draw lines just to get back across again. Draw lines, come back across, follow roads, go back to driving and click here, and this time it will force me to go round the road. So just some basic tools there to help you get started. Have a play. You can zoom in really close and find little roads. One other thing I'll mention just very quickly before I go, up at the top here I said I was on map. I find that the clearest for doing basic mapping, but when I'm getting into more detail, which I'll do on videos to come, I quite often use satellite, OSM, which is OpenStreetMaps, OSM Cycle, or OSM Outdoors. If I just click on one quickly, you'll see the layout of the map is quite different, and it does put in footpaths, other things, and again, if you're on cycling or walking, it will follow those paths for you as if it were a road. So that's basic mapping. In part 4, I'm going to talk about all the cues, which are going to be your directions that are going to come up on your phone for turn right, turn left. It's going to give you all the instructions as you go. So if you're still interested, I'll see you in part 4 and we'll look at some of that kind of detail. Okay.